From the four corners of this land we call America the Beautiful, here is a fascinating look at the world around us. RV trips of adventure, discovery, and beauty to find some of the most beautiful and unique places, people, and events on American Odyssey. Join us now as we leave the freeways behind and head for the back roads of America to discover what's just beyond the next bend in the road. This time on American Odyssey, we take you on a cross-state jaunt of Florida, starting in little-known Bradenton on the Gulf side, through the interior to St. Augustine for a scenic and fun tour on the back roads and byways of Central Florida. We'll explore the famous Ringling Art Museum, play with Spook Hill, visit some butterflies, and lots more, so stick around. We'll have fun together here on American Odyssey. Here is pure Florida. Nothing artificial has been added to enhance the flavor. The land of eternal sunshine, boating, RVing, and fun on the tropical waters of Bradenton Beach on the Gulf of Mexico, squeezed between Tampa to the north and Sarasota to the south. It seems that Tampa and Sarasota get all the PR, and poor little Bradenton is left to its clean, uncrowded, and sunny beaches. But Bradenton just happens to be a good jumping-off place for our American Odyssey of Florida's back roads and scenic byways. And I'd like you to join me as we travel from here to St. Augustine on some of the back roads. About 20 miles south, Longboat Key, which is a bedroom community of Sarasota, separates Sarasota from the Gulf of Mexico. Sarasota is one of the cleanest Florida cities we visited, and it has a certain charm about it that's, it's kind of hard to describe. There aren't many places around where you'd find a parrot free to roam in front of its home. Life is easy here, in and around the quirky cafes, friendly restaurants, and artsy, crafty boutiques. This is Florida's Tahiti, a lush paradise. Driving along the streets of Sarasota can never show you the heart and soul of any city. So after making a few notes in the motorhome, I strolled the marina and watched a beautiful Florida sunset. You know, I think Florida has some of the most colorful sunsets of all the southern states. A flock of pelicans circled above, looking for a place to spend the night. The next day, it was the Ringling Museum that was to hold my attention for most of the day. For more than half a century, the John and Mabel Ringling Museum of Art has been the cultural mecca of Florida, a magnificent memorial to the vision of its founder. As I wandered the grounds, it became apparent that John Ringling had an insatiable appetite for art of all kinds. And why not? He certainly had the money to buy whatever tickled his fancy. The grounds are a beautiful work of art in themselves, but inside the museum is an extensive collection of Baroque paintings of the 16th and 17th century. There are many I was not familiar with, but the works of the most famous artists of the past, with names like Peter Paul Rubens, Frans Hals, Mattia Pritti, Van Dyck, and many others, left me spellbound. Like this Peter Paul Rubens, Defenders of the Eucharist. Now, I know that most of the visitors were not art aficionados, but they were enjoying the works of art. This Franz Hall's portrait fascinated me, as did this one of the head of John the Baptist. And this delicate lacework in oil. Now, I'm certainly not an art connoisseur, but as I walked through the museum, I was impressed by a budding artist, Melanie Barber, who let me look over her shoulder as she worked. Now, that's a whole lot better than I can do, believe me. This painting, Italian Landscape in Moonlight, done in 1785 by Joseph Wright, is beautiful. Now, of course, occasionally you're bound to run into an art critic from time to time. Côte d'Azan, as the home of John and Mabel lived in was called, was strongly influenced by Mabel's extensive collection of drawings and plans. The drawings were given to Dwight Baum, a prominent East Coast architect of the 1920s. Now, it's said that when he saw the preliminary plans, the architect's face went pale. The mansion was built with many changes of plans, and the result, at a cost of $1.5 million, is an eclectic ensemble of architectural details, with touches of both the grand and the whimsical. There were 5 Ringling Brothers, but John was the real circus man. I wasn't around in those days, but it surely must have been something to see. What with the trapeze artist dressed in long skirts and tuxedos, the animals, including dozens of trained elephants, lions, and of course the sideshow people. The circus wagons themselves were works of art. Many have been preserved and can be seen here in Sarasota.
Thank you, thank you.
Now, when the circus came to town in the early part of this century, many people, especially kids, turned out to watch as the big tents were put up. The spectacular success of the Ringling Brothers from Wisconsin made them one of the best-known families in America. The second youngest brother, John, invested wisely, and by the Roaring '20s was one of the wealthiest men in America. On the west coast of Florida in Sarasota, John built this museum for his priceless collection of art, as well as a palatial waterfront home for himself and his wife, Mabel. When John died in 1936, he left his home, museum, art collection, and 38 acres of waterfront property to his adopted and loved state of Florida. Next, as we headed towards St. Augustine, was another one of those out-of-the-way places most travelers pass by without a second glance. Lake Wales and the beautiful Bok Tower Gardens. The town of Lake Wales is in the center of Florida's orange-growing region, and the Bok Tower Gardens are something you shouldn't miss if you have a need to get the cobwebs out of your head and if you enjoy the serenity of beautiful places. This sanctuary is not just a place. It's an experience to be cherished and remembered. And if it is a place, then it is a place in the heart. In 1923, Edward Bach asked landscape architect Frederick Olmsted Jr. to transform Iron Mountain from a sandy hill covered with pines and scrub palmettos into a sanctuary that would touch the soul with its beauty and quiet. As the transformation proceeded, Edward Bach decided to add a carillon tower, like those remembered from his early childhood days in the Netherlands. In 1929, the Singing Tower and the sanctuary were dedicated by President Calvin Coolidge. Here is a place to come to rest your weary bones and your rusty, dusty mind. You know, we humans need places and experiences like this in order to survive emotionally. Well, of all the crazy things I've done in my lifetime, and there have been a few, this is one of the crazier, at least here in Florida. Here at Lake Wales is a place where you are invited to drive up to a white line in the road and then put your car in neutral and take your foot off the brakes. Well, the car then will supposedly roll uphill, or at least it looks that way to the passengers and driver. Well, it's an optical illusion. Just make sure that no one is behind you when you try it. Now, if you roll into someone parked behind you, believe me, it won't be an optical illusion. Well, so much for Spook Hill. While parked on a side street in Lake Wales for lunch, the thought occurred to me that you might like a quick look at this small, middle Florida town. Well, I think it's kind of pretty, considering not many tourists come this way. And flowers seem to be everywhere. Oh, by the way, did I mention that we are in the middle of orange growing country? Wouldn't you know it? In Orange Country, near Lake Wales, they even got orange roads. Well, look at that. Orange trees. Now, I thought oranges grew in supermarkets. By the way, did I mention we're heading for St. Augustine with a stop at Cypress Gardens? No? Well, we are.
How y'all doing? I'm having fun. Sure wish you could come along.
Known as the water ski capital of the world, Cypress Gardens is something for everybody. Now, if you miss Cypress Gardens, you've missed Florida. While the water skiing shows are fun and exciting to watch, this is only a small part of Cypress Gardens' experience. There are so many different water shows that you need to call ahead for a schedule. The tour boat trip through the gardens are, hey, what's this? A pretty southern belle. And beautiful flowers everywhere. Of the newest attractions, Wings of Wonder. The Butterfly Conservatory is a fantasy world that appeals to all ages.
I think what you'll notice about Wings of Wonder is it's not just an entertaining experience. It's an educational experience too, where you're immersed in the world of the butterfly and you're able to take away lasting impressions.
Here you will find over 50 colorful species of butterflies from around the world. Plantation Garden also includes an herb and scent garden, a fruit and vegetable garden, and a rose garden.
We're receiving butterflies from all over the world, and they live here in a climate-controlled environment. We're maintaining a temperature of 80 degrees and a humidity of 70%, and we're feeding the butterflies with the nutrients they need to survive and live a long, good life. And there's no predators here, so you see, it's a paradise for butterflies.
Sure.
I haven't seen a butterfly in years, and now here they're all over us.
I really liked it because they just come up and land on you.
People seeing something that they can't see anywhere else.
They just land and they have all their legs separated and they're just so funny.
Traveling north on US 27, the Florida Citrus Tower came into view. A ride to the top in the elevator and then a short climb to the outdoor observation platform gives you a grand view of the surrounding countryside, but I was surprised to find that even though it was calm at ground level, the wind at the observation deck of the tower was fierce. Well, after buying a bag of oranges, it was onward to St. Augustine, the oldest continuously occupied settlement in the United States. St. Augustine is definitely Historyville, USA. And it also seems to be Funniesville, USA, if you wander the streets of the old Spanish Quarter. Here in the old Spanish Quarter can be found many ancient artifacts of the time when Florida belonged to Spain. St. Augustine was founded in 1565, which makes it roughly about 430 years old. This is a time when Shakespeare was born and Michelangelo died. The European Renaissance was still in progress. And 20 years before Philip of Spain sent his invincible sea armada to destruction in the war with England. Music seems to come from every corner of every street. But it's the history of St. Augustine and the fact that it is today an American city that makes it such an interesting place to explore. After I parked my RV, I paid a visit to the Castillo de San Marcos. The old stone fort was built between 1672 and 1695 after Englishman Robert Searles and his pirates seized St. Augustine in 1668. And why did the Spaniards build Castillo de San Marcos?
defend his empire, or his majesty, his most Catholic majesty, the King of Spain.
It's the savage English pirates.
Yes, we have the English, to the north, in Savannah and Charlestown and Jamestown. And we have the French, of course, over in Mobile, Biloxi, and New Orleans. So we have to defend Florida from both the French and from the English, not to mention the number of pirates along the Florida coast, and of course to also make sure that there's no Indian rebellion in the backcountry.
Sure, we look over this old fort, make funny remarks, and maybe, just maybe, for a brief moment, some of us might catch a fleeting look into the past. Once again, I'm reminded of how perilously close we came to sharing this continent with Spain, France, and yes, even Russia. I'm glad things worked out the way they did. By the way, I'd be rather careful about saying anything derogatory about the King of Spain. Spanish soldiers around here are touchy. And you guys really are making a big mistake. There's another fine mess you've gotten me into, Stanley. Will I get a last meal? Well, somehow I managed to survive. Lousy shots. And just in time to remind you that there are many, many more scenic byways and back roads in Florida. But I left those for you to explore on your own. I'm heading for someplace else in America so that we can travel together again on the next American Odyssey. Sure would be nice if you could join me. Till then, I'm Rudy Schroeder saying thanks for riding along with me.